Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Pikmin 4 review. As always, I apologize for being a little late. These reviews always tend to come out a bit later. It takes a while for me to really get them going, but it has given me a good amount of time to really digest the game and think about everything, and I'm excited to talk about it because I really had a lot of fun playing my first Pikmin game. Now, going into it, I did not know what to expect really at all. I knew Olimar was a character in Smash, and his moveset was super weird in the game, but that was really all I knew about him. It's hard to explain, but Smash has such a legacy in my mind. You know, its roster is filled with all of Nintendo's big dogs, the super popular games that earn their right to be on that Smash roster. Yeah, I know in reality it's a lot more of a business decision about profits and sales and all that kind of stuff, but even still, this idea that characters in Smash are in games worth playing, it's really burned into my mind, and I feel like a lot of others as well. And Olimar was no different. He was always there on that roster, reminding me that he did have a game that was good enough to earn him a spot on this roster. And so when Pikmin 4 came out and tons of people were raving about it, I decided it was time. Especially because the previous Pikmin game was so long ago, I think it was about 10 years before or something around that time. And I don't know, it just felt like such a perfect opportunity to get back into the series, you know, and especially after seeing some gameplay trailers, I was pretty sold and excited to play the game. And it did not disappoint. I ended up 100%ing the game. Asterisk. There were some things I didn't do, like I didn't do Olimar's questline and whatnot, but when I beat the game, it said 100%, so we're taking that, alright? We will take that. You know, I got every collectible, saved every person, and whatever else goes into the normal 100%. And I did it in my first Pikmin game, which I think goes to show how much I really enjoyed the game. The game was super fun. And, you know, admittedly, I will admit that part of the main motivator was how easy it was to do, especially with Ochi's ability with Sniff and all that stuff, but we'll talk about that more in the gameplay. But yeah, I just hope that kind of shows, like, I really did enjoy the mechanics of this game. I found them relaxing, I found them pleasant to do. You know, going for that next 100% really did not feel like a chore for this game. But before we get too deep into the you know, review and whatnot, let's show the grading sheet. This is the grading sheet that we always use for our reviews. And I will admit that going into this, I was afraid that it wouldn't work for this game. Just because a lot of the things I liked about this game were very gameplay focused. We'll kind of talk about that in the review. But actually, as I kind of went through and filled it out, I think our final score ended up being pretty accurate to how I felt to the game. So I'll have to wait to see at the end and see what you guys kind of think about it. But without further ado, let's stop stalling in this intro and let's get right into it with, of course, the first one. We will start with the story. Alright, the story is mid. Let's just be real. Maybe mid isn't the right word, it simply just literally doesn't exist. And honestly, maybe alone that would be fine, but what's frustrating to me is that they did that thing where they try to put like half a story in to make you feel like there's a story and something going on, but there's no real developments that ever happen. You know, there's a couple things that happen, like I guess Olimar's rescue, but there's not really a lot of meat, there's not a lot of anything going on. Some characters, like Louis, literally don't talk the entire game, and he plays the role of an antagonist. I guess antagonist is in quotes, but I mean, he plays kind of a major role in the second half. He doesn't say a word the whole game, so that's just kind of what you're dealing with when you get into Pikmin, which is fine to an extent, but I really enjoy when there's a bit more meat, a little bit of story to kind of keep you motivated to see what's happening, keep you interested. Pikmin wasn't really like that. Now, I will be realistic and say that this game clearly is not putting focus into the story. It's not why people buy Pikmin games. You know, this is the fourth game in the series. I'm sure people are very aware of what they're getting themselves into with the game. But for me, this is not my fourth Pikmin game. It's my first one. So I kind of had higher expectations of some kind of, I don't know, some kind of continuous story. Especially with the beginning, with how they kind of bait you with such a, I don't know, they have such a cool cutscene in the beginning. And it really feels like this is going to be a story-heavy game, especially with the use of characters from previous games. It just feels like there were so many opportunities for a story. I just kind of felt baited when there wasn't one in the end. In my notes, I wrote that the devs kind of build you up for disappointment, which I admit is a bit dramatic, but bro, they kind of do. Like, at a certain point, I would just prefer if they cut the theatrics and get straight into the gameplay, which is clearly the actual focus of the game, and it very much shines. And it's not to say that nothing happens. There are moments that are fun and exciting. Like saving Olimar was really awesome, and watching him, you know, meet the crew and interact with them was pretty awesome. But I don't know. I just wish that there were more of these moments. You know what I mean? I wish that there were more of these moments when, you know, going up to space and you think you're about to leave, and it turns out that Ochi actually needs more help. So they turn around. These kind of plot twists, I don't know, make the game feel more engaging. It's more interesting to play. I don't know. I appreciate that kind of stuff. And while I loved the gameplay for Pikmin, like, a lot, it does get a bit repetitive after a while, and I feel like part of that could be cured with a story to push you in new directions, you know? The way, that way you can enter new zones with a unique mindset and kind of solve different problems, instead of traversing these maps with the same mentality and goals as the one before it. I don't know. For me, I think that would have just added a little bit of variety, allowed you to, you know, see the maps in a different perspective when you go in with different goals and different story outlooks. But for me, I'm giving the story in Pikmin a 6. Honestly, it could have gone lower, but I genuinely respect that the story was not the focus of the game. And while it did hurt my enjoyment, I'm sure for many people it wasn't even something that came up. So I actually respect that they didn't focus on story, and they really put their resources into the gameplay. I just wish they wouldn't have faked it. You know what I mean? I just wish they would have cut the fluff, and I don't know. Why put one foot in the door? Let's put both feet in the gameplay door. Why is one foot in the story door and one foot in the gameplay door? I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. Alright, now the characters in Pikmin are honestly not bad. They have a decent amount of personality, and they all play a decent role in the team. You know, they all fit in their own little slot. However, there is no story for them to interact with. There's no plot for them to let their characters shine in. They're just kind of there. The group does have some fun moments in the night cycling, and I do like their dynamic together, but that all feels like all I can really comment on, because they don't really serve any other purpose in the game other than to make like witty comments and to serve as your shop. Now, to be fair, maybe that's more of a story issue and not really a character issue, but I can't help but like the characters less just because of how little their presence is felt during the game. I feel like an easy solution would have been to just have them be out in the world, in the zones, doing random research or whatever. Just have them be out and about and give them, you know, have them just be out giving players side quests or even just unique dialogue to make them feel more there. You know, I said it a lot during my playthrough, but it felt like the player character and Ochi do all the work, and it's like an intense survival situation, you know? We might not live, and most of the team is just dilly-dallying at camp. I just don't understand. I feel like they could easily give the characters more purpose and life if they were just out, you know, doing flower samples or getting soil samples or just doing things in the world, even if it's not that detailed. It could really just spice up what you're doing, because, you know, you can go for side quests, or you can just see things that are a bit more different, make the area feel a bit more alive. I would have really appreciated that. I just think keeping the characters around and using them for more than just walkie-talkie dialogue or just idle chit-chat when you're at base, I just think that would have been really, really valuable for the game. Now, I did really enjoy the inclusion of Olimar and Louie, even though they didn't do too much. Just seeing these legends actually talking to them, it felt kind of surreal, genuinely. Even not playing the old games, I know who Olimar is, and I even knew who Louie was to an extent. So it is really, really cool to see them and to, you know, talk to their characters. It is very, very cool, I must admit. You know, Pikmin 1 came out all the way back in 2008, and I can only imagine how awesome it must be to have played that game so long ago and to now experience that character again so many years later. It's a magical experience, and I'm really glad they didn't throw away that opportunity, and it is pretty cool. It's a bummer they maybe didn't do it super awesomely, but I think that players are probably super excited anyways to experience that. And the same applies to Louie and I know there are those 3 characters that were supposed to be modeled after the Pikmin 3 characters. I don't fully understand the lore or how I don't know if they're the exact same people or if they're based off them or whatever, but having those connections I think is really, really awesome. You know, rewarding the players that have been fans for a super long time. I think that's incredibly valuable and incredibly just special for those players to have those moments and to see characters that they remember from their childhood. I think that's really, really cool. So all this combined, you know, I think the characters were great. I think the characters that they used were amazing. I just thought that they didn't have a great story vessel to really shine in. But, you know, that's not really their fault. So I'm giving characters a 9. And this might seem a little high, honestly. I think it's deserved. I genuinely do. Just because of how fun the characters are and the inclusion of characters from old games. And again, kind of like what I said with the story, they're focusing gameplay, not so much this kind of stuff. I tend to feel like they deserve to be cut a little bit of slack for that. So, characters are getting a 9, and we will move right on to the music of Pikmin. Alright. This will be the last negative thing I say. I swear to God. But for me, the music was flat out unmemorable. I think part of that was I kind of just got my hopes up a little too high with it being Nintendo. I really associate Nintendo with good video game music, and I don't even really know why. I mean, I do know why. A lot of their big dogs, really their big contenders, they have beautiful music. But Pikmin just didn't really seem to fall in that category. And that's not to say that the music in Pikmin is bad. For me, it just wasn't used enough, in my opinion. I was re-listening to some of the OSTs on YouTube, and the music really was pretty solid, but it needed more of a chance to shine, in my opinion. A lot of the tracks are really cool and interesting, but they just don't last all that long. You know, and I understand that they're used in more specific moments or whatever, but when you have a really nice tune that lasts 30 to 45 seconds, why not flesh it out and turn it into a 3-minute song that can be kind of looped and used in other places? That's personally how I feel. I think it would have been a much more enjoyable experience if music played in the background while you were walking around and playing the game. You know, imagine if you're running around in the zones, doing all the Pikmin things, and there's just nice music going on in the background, kind of setting the tone for the area. Something like Risk of Rain, where kind of a tune just loops in the background and keeps the vibe of the stage just feeling right. I think that is a really missed opportunity for this game. So music for me is getting a quick 7 out of 15 because despite the tunes being pretty decent, they are used so little and so easily forgotten. With that said, there are a couple songs that I did like. I liked a couple songs really towards the end of the game. I remember liking the ending credit song. I don't know. I didn't mind the little trumpet wake up in the morning. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that was a horrible example, but I didn't mind that either. But yeah, unmemorable is really the most perfect word I can use. Like nothing stuck out, nothing really stuck with me, and I am definitely the type to get kind of obsessive with the music OSTs and stuff. So the fact that nothing stuck with me, I found very disappointing. Alright, the graphics. The graphics. Finally, we are saying good things about this game. Because the graphics and just the art style in general is so beautiful of Pikmin 4. Number one, I love their choice of color. The choice of color, I think, is honestly the best part about the Pikmin art style. The colors are just so bright and warm, and like they just fit the atmosphere so well of the game. It's really, really amazing. And it's crazy because this is a Switch game. And, you know, I think people are really, especially with Pokemon, I guess that's the one that really sticks out in my mind. People are really upset with the Switch hardware. You know what I mean? They kind of blame the hardware for, you know, bad graphics in a lot of other games. And it's just crazy because games like this really prove that the Switch is capable of having beautiful, beautiful games. And I don't know what the key is. I don't know if the optimization is the key. I don't know if it just comes down to the effort put into the graphics and art style is the key. I have no genuine... I don't know. I can't see behind the curtain on that kind of stuff. But the facts are there, man. They killed it. And they can make amazing, beautiful, beautiful games on the Switch. You know, Tears of the Kingdom is another beautiful game. There's tons. I'm not very cultured in Switch games, I must admit. So I can't name that many. I know Nier Automata or whatever. Or there's some weird games that people love, and the graphics are beautiful on the Switch. So it's clearly capable. And the Pikmin 4 is no other example, or is another example. I said that odd, but yeah, they used a great color palette for their game. Not only that, the graphics are actually nice. Like the backyard, the pool, the water, all the different zones are unique. They look special. They look different. They have their own vibe to them. And it ties into the mechanics a little bit as well, which I thought was really, really awesome. You know, the beach is this beautiful place where as it gets darker and darker, the tide kind of rises. And I like that a lot. It adds to it. It makes it feel a bit more alive. And everything like that. It just looks so amazing, the game. And it's not just the level designs. I really like the way the mobs looked. You know, they have this really unique style of... I would explain this so poorly. I've tried like 5 different times already and it's not possible. But the mobs just feel thought out. Like, the way they exist, it seems like they're thought out in the sense of like they have methods of you know, hunting and that kind of reflects their design. You can kind of see how they could exist in the ecosystem and consistently, get food or whatever. Like, it probably isn't even thought out to this level, but it really feels that way. The way they, hang from the ceiling and pounce on you, it just feels like they're real creatures, and that's how they would actually exist, which is super cool. I guess you can't really credit that only to specifically Pikmin 4, because a lot of these mobs came from the other games. A lot of them were reused and kind of, brought back from old Pikmin games. But the Pikmin team overall just has a really great handle on the overall style of the game, which I really appreciate. They have it really down, the style that they're going for, and they just really nail it, which I really enjoy. It's pleasant to walk around and to look around and to just see everything, because the maps look so nice. I have to say my favorite level design is the one inside the house. It's just so cool to walk around as a tiny creature, and seeing how the house furniture acted as the fire or just general obstacles, I thought that was really, really fun. So I'm giving graphics and art style a 14. I would give it a 13, but I think being on the Switch and still looking great genuinely makes it deserve an extra point, so I'm happy to give it a 14 out of 15. 4. This is not a $60 game. Write in the comments, I do not care. Alright, now this review starts. Pikmin gameplay is the shit. It's not perfect, but damn, it is good. Once you really start to get into the flow of it, for me it was around the second zone, you just start to understand the point and the value in being efficient, and it can feel great to fly through areas while still getting everything done. The first zone is a ton of fun, getting a grasp of the Pikmin and their different abilities. One thing I did find slightly disappointing was just the limit of only 3 Pikmin at a time. I don't know, I just feel like it limits the creativity and freedom for not only the player, but the puzzle design. Each zone has 3 recommended Pikmin types, and usually the puzzles revolve around them, and it makes the answer to most puzzles pretty clear. The way the Pikmin kind of interact with things, it's like, the yellow guys are doing the electric stuff, and if it's recommended on the yellow, you're probably gonna know, hey, there's some electricity going. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm looking for too much from a children's game, admittedly, but I just feel like the puzzles could be a bit more complex if, the devs weren't limited to just 3 Pikmin types at a time. Hopefully that makes sense. But even still, running around and doing all the different tasks while looking for raw material and onions, it was really a blast. Ochi was of course a great help for all that. I found his sniff ability to be a little overpowered, but to be honest, I think the game would have been a real pain in the ass without it. So I'm not mad that it's there. I just think that maybe the trail was a little bit too OP. Something about just how mindless it is. You can just kind of hit the sniff button and just kind of automatically run to where you need to go. It's a double-edged sword. It was really, really efficient and kind of nice. It was made it very easy on my part, but maybe a little bit too easy, admittedly. I have seen in older games that you actually can control more than 2 at a time. I think it was Pikmin 3 where you kind of juggle between like 2 or 3, right? Or 3 or 4. I'm sorry, Pikmin 4 is my first Pikmin game, so I'm not super knowledgeable about this kind of stuff. But I have to say, I really appreciate this style of just the 2. I don't know, I could see how having more characters would really increase the skill ceiling and maybe even the fun ceiling if you're really being efficient with it. But it was just relaxing to not have to put too much effort into it. I could really balance Ochi and the player pretty decently. It wasn't like too difficult. So I enjoyed that a lot. I could definitely admit that is maybe a skill issue, maybe if you're a better player, you really enjoy having more options and more people to control at once. But, I don't know, 2 felt like a really nice number where I could use both and still be reaching near max efficiency, and I just enjoyed that a lot. I really enjoyed raw materials. Normally in these games I really do enjoy like the currencies and collecting the currencies and stuff like that, but I love the early game of having to juggle buying items from the scientist as well as using raw material to get around the map with the shortcuts and paths to new areas. It really forces you to actually make choices, and it feels good to make the right one. I honestly wish there was more endgame stuff to buy, like the auto-plucking whistle was a great example of that. Just stuff that's towards the endgame that's super expensive and kind of gives me a reason to grind for raw materials. I kind of noticed towards the end, you just buy everything and you have such a reserve of raw materials, you kind of stop doing the dig ups and you kind of just stop chasing the raw material, which I really was bummed out by. I think overall the combat was decent. It's obviously not the focus of the gameplay, but for what it was pleasant, it was enjoyable. The mobs, had different tricks to them and different ways to beat them, weaknesses to different Pikmin, so that was pretty fun. and I loved the exploration. Exploring in this game was so fun. Just going to new parts of the map was fun. There's always a new puzzle or a new mob or maybe raw materials or the great onions. Onions were really my big motivator. I loved running out and collecting them. If you haven't played the game, the onions kind of increase how many Pikmin you can carry at once. And of course, with more Pikmin, it just your efficiency increases so much. So I really enjoyed the onion hunt. That was really fun. It just felt like there was so much loot around you, and the more efficient you are, the more you can scoop up before the sun sets. It was a really good system. It was a really good flow. Dandori battles are some of the most fun in the game for me. I just really enjoyed the pressure of the timer and trying to complete everything in the room. Nintendo games often have the issue of balancing difficulty across its many age groups. I kind of talk about it a lot on my channel especially. But just trying to 100% the rooms in Dandori battles was super exciting. It was actually really fun and challenging in a pretty fun way. Even the 1v1 battles against CPUs really started to get more competitive towards the end. I definitely enjoyed my battles with Louie, and I really had moments that felt super close. They genuinely felt challenging and close. I'm going for 100%, so I guess it was a little bit different. I was trying to get really high medal tiers, but I think that's also what makes it great. It's a good balance for younger audiences who just kind of want to get the level done and complete it. And then if you're older, you can kind of go for these higher medals, and it actually is a decent amount of challenge. And it's not annoying challenging, it's fun challenging. So it was actually pretty nice and well designed. And all this was amazing, just running around doing all these things. However, you'll notice I haven't spoken about one thing, and that is my least favorite part about gameplay by far, and that is caves. I don't know what it was about caves. I just really disliked them. And really for this review, I had to sit down and think for a while on why I really didn't like them. And to figure that out, I had to just realize what I liked about normally running around. And it was kind of everything I just told you. The loot, the timer keeping you between it, and seeing how much you can always get. The cave didn't really have that sense of urgency. You have a lot more time because of the slowdown, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like a challenge anymore. It felt like a chore. And I think that feeling only got worse when you finish a cave and you see you're only got 20% through, and you just have 4 more levels, and it's just oh man. I really did not find that super enjoyable. There were a few in the endgame that I really enjoyed, mostly because they actually were challenging, and keeping my favorite Pikmin alive became not only challenging but punishing as well. And there was my favorite cave. It was my favorite in the moment. I think the excitement has kind of died down over time. But I did really enjoy the invisible guy, he kind of chased you around. I still don't really understand that in the lore. If you watch my video, I was so excited. I thought plot relevance was happening. And then as I went through the game, I slowly started to realize that there was no plot relevance to that. It was just random bullshit. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, and it was actually pretty difficult and honestly exciting too, just because of how hard it was. Not hard, but it was honestly scary in a way. Just the monster was creepy, and it definitely got me nervous in a fun way. But I would say 80, maybe even 90% of the caves were incredibly boring. Holy cow, there was one cave that was 10 stages. Admittedly, it was towards the end. I think it's the boss cave, I guess. But oh my god, it was so brutal. Watching that percent bar just barely tick up, it felt like such a grueling process. Oh man, I really like the word chore for the caves because I just feel like it's the perfect way to describe how they felt for me. They just felt like chores. Walking around the map and having all this fun, and then coming across a cave, I could feel my heart just sink. It was oh my gosh, alright, here we go. I'm honestly genuinely curious what the fan opinion is of caves, because I just genuinely dislike them. As a new Pikmin fan, I genuinely really dislike them. But I'm curious what, a quote-unquote real Pikmin fan would have to say about the caves. Now, on the other hand, the complete opposite side of that, we have wonderful Dandori battles. Man, these were so fun, and they only got more fun as the AI got smarter, as it got more difficult. And I think it's pretty simple why I like them in comparison to caves. They're literally just caves with timers. And I think that sense of urgency is what makes the wins feel good. It's what makes the game feel good. That timer always clicking above your head is what makes playing well rewarding, you know what I mean? I think I just really enjoyed that. Night mode was also pretty fun, and it was definitely challenging. I don't know. That also might be a skill issue too, because I had difficulty with those pretty early on, and it just only got worse. Shout out my guy Dingo for clearing one level for me. I needed him bad. And yeah, I don't know. I still haven't really talked about the Pikmin either, actually. I really enjoyed how many different kinds there were, despite being limited to 3 at a time. It did kind of bum me out that they waited so long to introduce some of them. I really would have preferred to see all the Pikmin in the first 2 to 3 zones, and then you can use the next 2 to 3 zones to really just I don't know, just go full in on the puzzles and the challenges. I just feel like it got to the point where we were meeting Pikmin on like the second to last zone, and you just kind of have this feeling of like, okay, this is an awesome Pikmin. The purple one, the white one, they were really cool, but it's like I don't really have that much opportunity to use them. I've already 100%ed the old areas, so I'm not doing any backtracking, and it's just like, I just would have preferred to get all of the Pikmins early on. I think that would have been really, really fun, and it would have just allowed you to use them more and for the puzzles to kind of integrate them better. But yeah, I really love purple Pikmin. They're just freaking Chad. I love the way you throw them out and they just kind of plop and they have so much weight to them. And I love how useful they are. And it really, everything feels balanced. Like, nothing feels OP. They can carry a lot, but they're super, super slow. So it does really kind of balance out. They're kind of like a different type of strength. So yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game a lot. The gameplay was really the highlight of this game for sure. I've said it many times in my playthrough, but it just really feels like being a queen ant of like an ant colony. And just kind of watching them all work perfectly together without communicating is really, really neat. So for me, gameplay is going to get a 29. It's a really damn good game. I think without caves, it'd be like a 31, but even still, Pikmin gameplay is fun. It's addictive. It's honestly everything I was kind of hoping you would be looking at the trailers. It was really, really pleasant and enjoyable. So with all that said, we end up with a 69. And, you know, at first, I was really self-conscious about this score. I don't know, I thought it was not good, and I thought it didn't represent my chart really well. Actually, through this process, I do have updates for my chart going forward, my rubric. But, you know, as I really thought about it, I'm actually really happy with the score. I think 69 is actually, like, exactly where it needs to be. If you think about, like, the entire scope of games, Omori was a game that I freaking loved to death, and I only gave that game, I think, like an 89 or something like that. So, I want this to be a strict game, or like a strict kind of rubric, a strict kind of grading system. And really, in the scale of all games, I think a high D, low C is pretty freaking good. Now, I can't possibly imagine thinking of a point in this review where I gave a point, or I took a point away where I shouldn't have.
4. This is not a $60 game. Write in the comments, I do not care.
But no, I'm genuinely really happy with how everything got leveled out. I apologize for how long it took to make this. Dude, these reviews are so difficult for me. I don't really understand why. I think I'm just a procrastinator, and I just keep putting it off. But I shouldn't, because I really do enjoy making them, and I kind of want them to be the backbone of my channel. So I'm glad to be, you know, getting this one out, getting it complete. This review in particular was really hard for me. I don't know why. The Omori one, you know, was hard because I wanted it to be perfect. I love the game so much. I really wanted it to be a perfect review, even though it was not a perfect review. But this one was challenging in a different way. I just like, I think I just had a hard time thinking of what to say a lot of it, and I ended up rewriting I call it a script, just my little bullshit notes, but I ended up rewriting it like 3 times because I would get to the editing part after recording everything, and I just didn't like what I was saying, and even now that I don't like it, but you know, at a certain point we just gotta ship this, you know what I mean? We gotta just make it and get it going. So I really do appreciate you guys watching. I hope that you guys, you know, I mean, I guess I don't hope anything. I just hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to hear you guys' opinions on this game. I apologize also for this review being late because people are probably kind of over it already. You know what I mean? The hype has definitely died down, but I'm super curious what you had to say, or what you have to say about this game, what your opinion was. And one final shout out to Arlo, the YouTuber. Not that he needs a shout out from me, but I want to say thank you to him because I probably wouldn't have played this game without his recommendation. Not that he recommended it to me, but you know, watching his videos and hearing him talk so highly of it, it was definitely a big motivator and why I got into it. You know, that's kind of a weird trend too, actually, now I think about it, because it was similar with Omori too. Watch people like see it on Twitter and stuff like that. I think, you know, when you see people really enjoying something, it makes you want to be like, damn, what's all the hype about? I want to see it for myself. And that was definitely what's been happening for this game as well. So yeah, I'm definitely rambling now, but thank you guys very much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. And I will catch you guys all in the next one. The next review is going to be Hollow Knight, less than 6 months. That's my goal. I want that review out in less than 6 months. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's a lot of work. And I also have a couple other videos on the horizon, too. I don't want to say them or spoil them because who knows if they get lost in the process of making them or whatever. But yeah, Thank you guys very much for watching. Pikmin is an amazing game. I would 1000% recommend it because I also want to do that in these videos. Does it get the recommendation? 100% it does. I would definitely play this game if you're looking for a nice Switch game to take onto the airport or, I don't know, whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, the 69, I think it's a pretty damn good score, honestly. I think, really, if you think about the whole scale of games, like, high D is pretty damn good, you know what I mean? I would love to get some sub 50 reviews up here, just to kind of, like, get the whole scale of it. I don't know. But yeah, I'm super rambling now, so let me just wrap this shit up. Thank you guys so much, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Peace!